Hey everybody, so today we are serving up sustainability and answering the dreaded sustainability question that we all have to answer on every single grant application we fill out. I'm Becky Jascoviak, and I am um, a nonprofit consultant. I've been in the industry for almost 30 years. Started when I was 10. Um, I've been in all various forms of nonprofits, different sectors, different parts of the organization. Um, Maybe you know me because I was the chair of the Grant Professionals Foundation. I'm also the program chair of the Chicago GPA chapter, and I am the creator of Your Sustainability Guide. So what you're getting today is normally done in a whole course, but I've whittled it down to an hour before and now down to 10 minutes. So you are getting the 50,000 foot view. That is for sure here. So let's start out. How would you define sustainability? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Like, what are the first things you think of when you think of sustainability, especially when it comes to nonprofits or grants or answering the question? What are those things that come to mind? Typically, we see things like maintaining a certain output or an outcome, being self-sufficient, using earned income, attracting multi-year unrestricted funding. Oh, the golden holy grail of grant funding, right? Looking at diversified revenue streams, finding grants that cover full costs, including direct and indirect costs, ethical transmission of the triple bottom line. Who knows what the triple bottom line is? Any MBAs out there? This is when you look at people, profits, and planet all together to come to an appropriate answer to a question. And then adapting to marketplace changes. These are all very typical answers that we see in what people think about sustainability. But just to give us an idea here of what it means for us, we're going to use this definition. Sustainability is the ability for your program or your organization, but in this case, program, to continue delivering outcomes consistently, ethically, and adaptably. So keep that in the back of your mind. That's the context that we're going to talk about today. And we're going to use this in a little bit of a, maybe fun way. We're going to look at it as our sustainability burrito. So it's lunchtime. Maybe you'll like some Mexican food after I get done here. But if we take the whole plate is the world of sustainability. And then you put the burrito on the plate to fill it up, right? So that's the planet. And that's typically what most people think of is kind of the environmental side. But what in our context here, what we mean is the community context, the equity, the environmental impact. What's the regulatory landscape? What is the overall world that your program operates within? Sometimes we call this context. Sometimes we call it the situation. Sometimes we call it a community needs assessment. Various different ways that we look at what the planet is here. So is what you're doing helping or hindering the environment or the ecosystem? And again, ecosystem doesn't have to mean just the plants and wildlife. It can mean the community, the people, the systems that you find yourself in. So that's our first P. The second P is programs. This is the protein of a good burrito. Those meat, those beans, this is your mission. This is the work that we do. This is the outcomes that we have, our impact in the world. This is really, in another context, we might call it the meat and potatoes, right? But this is the core of what we do. It's what you order, right? You order a steak burrito or a chicken burrito or a shrimp burrito or beans, whatever your preference is. But that's the core, right? So then the question here is, are they reasonable? Are your outcomes, objectives, goals, all of those, are they reasonable for your current stage or where you're trying to get to? I've seen lots of write-ups where we're trying to grow so fast that we reasonably can't sustain that without just tremendous impact across all areas. So the next layer of our burrito is rice. And this is all the kind of the sticky glue that holds everything together, right? That's what makes your burrito nice and chunky and holds together. These are the processes that make everything strong in your program and in your organization. So this is your systems, your documentation, your data, but also how equitable and adaptable you are to your beneficiaries, to the community, to changes in the world. That's how much rice you put in. Are you putting white rice or brown rice? All of those different things right there. As grant writers, we deal with these things all the time, right? We're constantly looking for that data point. But how documented are they if it's not you, if it's somebody else? How well are your program staff trained in documenting what is needed for being able to translate this to somebody else? And are those documents, are they adaptable? Are they equitable? How does it flow in the process of what you're working on? Next layer, cheese, lettuce, veggies, all the good things. Maybe like some fajita veggies on here and just put regular tomatoes on the picture here. But these are the people. These are all the different characteristics and nuances of all the different people, the staff, the volunteers, your leadership. What about the pipeline for how you're bringing in new staff? Maybe use interns, maybe use volunteers that become staff. But how are you looking to prepare for the future? And do we have all the right people that we need? Do we have all the right people? Do we have them in the right seats, on the right bus, headed in the right direction? Do we have enough of them in the various different areas that we need? Last but not least is the pillars, and that's all the good stuff, the gloppy stuff you put on top, the salsa, the guacamole, sour cream, all maybe some queso dripping over the top of it. These are the pillars. These are the things we typically think about with funding, with diversified revenue, with infrastructure, tools, technology, even partnerships and collaborations. So those are all the good spice and all the different layers of things that are the pillars that hold our burrito together and make it really good and gooey. And this is what we typically think of when we write. But do those resources really align with their needs? It's often easy to chase funding, right? And so looking at what your needs are, and then do they create the support that's necessary for your program? So put it all together, you've got this great big burrito with all the different components of our sustainability. This is where you start building your response to your question of what is the how will you sustain this program. So following this presentation, you're going to get this sustainability scorecard. This is what we typically use to build out an actual sustainability plan, but you can use it to see the 5 different areas that we just talked about. You can do an assessment where you are today. You can make a plan for how you want to get to where you want to be in a year, in 3 years, in 5 years. That's how you build out a sustainability plan. But let's talk about the actual sustainability statement. So if we talk about all the different ways that we just talked about, how do you operate sustainably? What are the processes you have? How are the people working at a sustainable pace? Where does equity fit in all of this? What are the actual diversified revenue streams that you have? And how does your program measure against the triple bottom line? Again, triple bottom line, people, profits, planet. So how are we ethically and equitably evaluating? So here's a sample sustainability statement. This is just a made up organization, just to have a name in here. It's 100 words, so really short and tight. That is, often we're so limited on characters and word counts. So this is 100 words. And if we kind of look through it. You don't have to read it now. You can read it in full in the when you get the follow-up. But just to point out, like I mentioned here about the planet, this is the ecosystem, the world that we find the program in. Then the program itself, kind of what it does in brief snapshots, because we've already talked about the program in whole, not as part of the sustainability statement, but just these little momentary pieces. What are some process pieces that lead to sustainability? So we're talking about not having a wait list. We're having developing new lessons, that kind of thing. What about the people? So we're talking about how staffing is based, how they're doing their trainings, all of the things that relate to the people side. And then the pillars, this is how we typically answer. We'll do more fundraising, right? Well, this is already showing we have consumables that are paid for by corporate sponsorship, but we also have these other income streams as well. So it shows that right here in this very short, tight program statement. So that is your 50,000-foot view. I'd love to answer some questions. You can connect with me, follow up. I've got lots of different ways there to find me. I'd love to connect, and thank you very much.